All right, so now we're into one variable inequalities, and we're getting into this idea of the sign chart. But first, let's think of x squared plus 3x minus 4. As soon as I see this, I have to tell you that I think x plus 4, x minus 1. And my hint here is that these differ by 1. So that's less than 0. This just gives me a way for me to graph it because I've got now an x-intercept of -4, x-intercept of 1, and it points up. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. The halfway point of that is going to be here at -1.5. So I could plug that in to find my y value. I know my intercept, though, is -4, 2, 3, 4. So if I mirror that over here, somewhere below it, and I should have given myself more space, obviously, is going to be that. So if I draw in my parabola, which I should not have done, I should have put it in as dashed based on less than. So I want everything that's less than 0 in this parabola. So everything that's less than 0, well, those are all the negative values. So less than 0, at my x-intercepts, I'm equal to 0, so those are not included. But then all of these values are included. So now I can come back and make this part solid because these are the values that I want. I'm looking only for the x values. So really, I don't care about these y values. They're all negative. That's what I cared about. I want these x values. So I'm really looking at these x values here. And these x values here are going from -4 to 1, which I can shrink down to here. So here's my solution with just one variable. I don't have two variables anymore. I only care about the x values. So between -4 and 1, this quadratic is negative. It has negative values. I can test it. I plug in 0. Plug in 0, sure enough, -4 is less than 1. So now let's look at algebraically. Algebraically, I also want to start by factoring. Once I start by factoring, I get my solutions that make the expression equal to 0. So once I've factored, then I have, so I had x plus 4, x minus 1, and I want that to be less than 0. Well, x plus 4 times x minus 1 equals 0 at -4 and +1. So if I think about the sign chart here, then I'm looking at x values and I'm looking at their sign. So my key x values are -1 and 4. And I left space before, in the middle, and after. This should be opposite. My key values are -4 and +1. And then I want to pick numbers on either side. So I'm going to go -5, I'm going to pick 0, and I'm going to pick +5. I just want to pick easy numbers for myself. And my sign chart is I want to know what sign do I get when I plug these in. Well, if I plug in -4, I know I'm going to get 0. So this sign doesn't exist. It's like not applicable. At 1, I also get 0. 0 is neither positive or negative. But now if I plug in -5, -5 plus 4 is a negative. -5 minus 1 is a negative. And negative times negative makes positive. So at -5, when x is -5, my quantity is positive. At 0, I'm going to get a positive times a negative, which makes negative. At 5, I'm going to get a positive times a positive, which also makes positive. So in my sign chart, I'm looking for everything that's negative. Well, it looks like from between 4 to 1, I have all the negative values. So this is telling me the same thing as the solution I got above. that between -4 and +1, all my x values were negative. So looking down here, I see that going from -4 to 1 is where where my negative values are. So -4 less than x less than 1. And we're going to try that again in the next example.